Mosaic tiles can make a great feature wall or splashback, but can be daunting if you've never tiled before. My name is Ken, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create something like this in your own home. We're going to be using KitKat style mosaic tiles, but they come in a whole range of different shapes, sizes, and looks depending on what you want for your space. Preparation is key when it comes to tiling, and at this stage we're going to need a tape measure, a spirit level, and a handy pencil to make all your marks. We're going to need to find our center point, mark our edges so that we can add our trim, and in that way we can use them as a guide. Now that we've got our guides on the wall, we need to mark out, using our center line, where we're going to make our cuts on our tiles to make them all even. In this case, we need to take off 2 of the tiles, and that way, once we do the same on the other side, that will leave us with a nice 4mm grout line bang in the center. Now we're into the final stages of our preparation. We're going to make some rough score marks into the wall to help the adhesive to bond with it better. You don't always have to do this because we're using plasterboard. It's a good idea. Let's talk about adhesives. We're going to be using a waterproof fix and grout. It's a 2-in-1. We can stick our tiles to the wall, and we can also grout with just one product. First thing we need to do is we need to stick our trims to the wall so we can use them as a guide when we're installing our tiles. Even though you're using a guideline, just double check with the spirit level, make sure you're still nice and straight. The adhesive doesn't set straight away, so you have a little bit of time to move it a little bit if you need to. Our trims are in, we've double checked it with a spirit level, we've measured it to make sure that they're even all the way throughout, and now we're ready to put our first row of tiles in. So I'm using a 6mm notch trowel. You do get different size notch trowels depending on what tile you're installing, but for us, the 6mm notch trowel is perfect. So make sure when you're applying these, don't push them in too firmly, just literally lightly tap them, and then we're going to grab our float, and then we're going to put even pressure across all the tiles. That way we know we're going to get perfect even contact, and we'll have a nice smooth flat surface. Even though the mosaic tiles are equally spaced out on the mesh sheet, we need to add a 4mm spacer in between the 2 sets of tiles so that we keep that space continuous throughout the whole wall. So now that we've got all of our main tiles onto the wall, we need to measure and mark out this top section so we can make some small cuts to our tiles so that we know that they're going to fit perfectly. In this case, we're not going to need the full sheet, so I'm just going to get a knife and cut the mesh so I can separate these 2 tiles in half. Then I can make my marks on the remaining tiles and then make my cuts. So we're going to be using a manual tile cutter. A manual tile cutter will give me a little bit more control, but if you have an electric tile cutter, you can also use that. My little tip is to get yourselves a tile marker. It's water resistant and it's easy to wipe off, and it won't stain your tiles when you're making your marks. Safety first. So it's important when cutting mosaic tiles that we score each tile individually. Because they're on a mesh sheet, they can move and it could put your line off slightly. So we're going to score each one and snap each one individually. So now that we've made the cuts to our tiles, we've got a little bit of a rough edge that we're going to need to smooth out. We can now apply these to the wall. So my little hack to keep clean grout lines is to grab a toothbrush, and as you set your tiles, just go down the lines, get rid of any excess adhesive, so that way you know you're going to get perfectly clean grout lines every time. Now that all the tiles are on the wall, we're going to let that set for 24 hours, and then we're going to come back and do the grout. Right, it's now time to start grouting our walls, and we're going to need a few things. Our microfiber cloth, our sponge, our float, a smoothing tool, obviously our grout, and a bucket of water. The first thing I like to do is I like to dampen my tiles. I don't want to get them too wet, but just enough so that when I start spreading my grout, I can get it into all the gaps and it won't stick to the tiles. So when applying your grout, you want to try and get as much of it into your grooves as possible. So you want to follow the direction of your tiles, but just make sure you're putting enough pressure so that you're filling those gaps as best as you can. Our final part of this project is to finish it off with some silicone around the sink, just to add that next level of protection and waterproofing against the tiles. And just like that, something so simple can really elevate the space. And now it's time for you to give it a try. Make sure you check out our other videos and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and let us know in the comments what videos you want to see next.